Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. The last few weeks have been a lot of fun. We got a Nintendo Direct last week, there's also the rumored Pokemon Direct for this week, but also, PlayStation has opened up the valve for a lot of news in the last couple days. Yesterday, they unloaded with a ton of PlayStation news, and if you missed that, make sure to watch yesterday's video, but right after I finished recording, they actually announced one more thing. A new State of Play event has officially been revealed, and it's taking place this week, so we will talk about that today. Also, speaking of Nintendo, another Switch Pro leak is making its rounds across the internet. This seems to happen once or twice every single month, but this time there seems to be some confidence with this leak. As usual though, I do cover the entire game industry and there is a lot of things happening right now. So let's dive right into things, starting off with the ever-growing hit title, Valheim. We've talked about this game several times in the last few weeks because of how much success this game has had, and it's really nice to see something like this. As we've talked about before, this is an early access title that released on February 2nd, and fans seem to absolutely love this game. Well, it's quickly translating to a massive amount of success. They did just announce today that it's reached a new milestone of 4 million units sold, and if you're keeping track, that's 4 million sold in 22 days. That is incredibly difficult to do, especially for an early access game that's $20 and hasn't had a ton of marketing. This isn't some big AAA game coming from a well-known publisher or anything like that. This instead is an independent survival game, and if you listen to the community, people are saying this game is the best survival game out right now. People claim it's better than AAA games releasing as of this moment, and if you look at the reviews on Steam, it bounces up and down from 97% to 96%. So honestly, I don't think this game will slow down anytime soon. It's going to continue to grow a lot, and this will be the next big game. If you haven't played this game yet though, go check it out on Steam. I know there's also been some questions about a console release for Valheim. I've seen those in my comments, but as of right now, the developers have confirmed there are no current plans for a console release. But they also aren't ruling it out in the future. As of this moment, their main focus remains on early access, which is estimated to be 1 year. Considering its popularity, however, once this game exits early access, I could see them trying to expand. We'll see about all that, but if you do have a PC capable of running Valheim, then definitely go check it out. Next up, we unfortunately have a delay to talk about. This seems to be a normal thing anymore, but this one is a little different than some other recent delays. This is actually for Bloodline's Masquerade 2, and when this first got announced, there was a lot of excitement for this game. RPG fans have a lot of fond memories of the first game, and now that a sequel is finally in the works, that's great news for fans. However, there has been some concern recently that this game was cancelled. Paradox Interactive did finally break the silence, however, and posted an update on what's happening with its anticipated sequel. And well, the good news is that it's not cancelled, but unfortunately there does seem to be some trouble development with this game as they have decided to part ways with the developer Hardsuit Labs. Yeah, so this game is no longer being planned for a 2021 release, which is why they will no longer be taking pre-orders at this time. What they're trying to do now instead is to find a new studio to work on this game, and it's hard to give any kind of timeline for something like this. What they did say is that Hardsuit Labs did a great job at laying the foundation for Bloodlines 2, so it doesn't look like that they will completely restart development. But at the same time, it's clear they were not happy in the direction that Hardsuit Labs was taking it in. I'm sure this was a very difficult decision to make, but to ensure they publish the game that they want, this move may have been necessary. Nintendo did something similar with Metroid Prime 4, so hopefully when Bloodlines 2 releases, the wait will be worth it. If there's any silver lining here, at least it's not cancelled. Now we also got a Google Stadia update today. Yeah, they are still around even though they got rid of their first-party studios. They're still releasing games, and in fact they announced a new exclusive game for Stadia. Pixel Junk Raiders will be exclusive and releases on March 1st. It looks solid from what I've seen with an interesting art style. You can either pick this game up for $20 on the Stadia store, or it will come included if you are a Stadia Pro subscriber. And this is interesting because this could be Google's new strategy. While they are no longer building their own internal studios, they could very much go in the direction that Epic Games has, where they sign a bunch of exclusive titles for Stadia. That's not really an ideal situation for gamers, but Google has a lot of money and they could end up being a threat in that regard. If you remember when they announced that they were shutting down their Stadia studios, they emphasized that Stadia would still exist. Well, this could be their way of breaking into the market, and we've seen that with Epic Games versus Steam. They signed, and continue to sign for that matter, a ton of exclusives to get more PC fans on their platform, and they have had some success doing that. So Google could be trying a similar approach here, but I think Google has much bigger hurdles than Epic Games. Epic Games had already built up trust across the game community as they've been around the game industry for a long time. And then they also had Fortnite, which was a massive success. Google, however, if anything, they've lost trust from gamers and possibly developers and publishers as well. It did not bode well for them that they shut down a studio that they acquired just last year. There really is that question on how committed they are, and I think publishers and developers will look into that. I mean, you have Pixel Junk Raiders, which looks good and everything, but the question now is, will enough people play this game on Stadia? I guess we'll see what happens. Also, we got an update on the Xbox Bethesda acquisition. There's been a lot of talk about this today. We know Microsoft is close to finalizing the acquisition, and there is a rumored Xbox Bethesda event taking place sometime in March, but there is a looming lawsuit that sits over Bethesda that could potentially delay the acquisition. This is making the waves today, and when I say potentially, I think it's very unlikely that this will happen. But this is what's going on. A group by the name of XLaw Group filed a lawsuit against Bethesda back in July of 2019 over some DLC-related issues in Fallout 4. Bethesda sold a season pass for $30, which they said would be all of the DLC they ever do. However, they later on announced a creation club that was not included in this season pass. Because of this, there has been a class action lawsuit filed that Bethesda was deceitful in their advertising of Fallout 4 Season Pass. The XLaw Group is reportedly seeking more than $1 billion, which sounds frivolous for a lawsuit like this. Seems like they are trying to cash in on a technicality and using this Microsoft acquisition as leverage. They are trying to delay the Xbox acquisition and claims that they want to preserve assets. Now, to be clear, this lawsuit has been around since 2019, and Microsoft, being a huge company, already knew about this. With that said, I don't really know much about all these legal issues, but I will point you in the direction of somebody who does, Hoeg Law, which made a very informative video on this specific subject. I will leave a link to that video in the description and comments below, but to put it short, he says this is very, very unlikely to delay or stop this acquisition. Him being a part of a law firm, I mean, he knows his stuff. So we'll just kind of leave it at that, but I do recommend you watch his video for a more in-depth answer. Again, this will very unlikely affect the Bethesda acquisition in any shape or form. Moving on, let's talk about PlayStation, because yesterday they revealed a lot of exciting news from PlayStation VR 2.0 to some upcoming games in 2021, and even some PlayStation PC games. However, later in the day they had one more announcement, and that's a PlayStation event that will take place tomorrow on February 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the second week in a row that we get a big event like this. Last week we got Nintendo Direct, and now we get State of Play. But what should you expect from this event? What we do know is that State of Play will be 30 minutes long. They're doing a deep dive into 10 different games ranging from the PlayStation 4 and PS5. There will be new game announcements and updates on independent and third-party titles from last year's PS5 event. They will not be showing any kind of hardware here, and the main focus is absolutely on games, which is good news in my opinion. That all sounds really good on paper, and I'm definitely excited to see what these 10 games are. We don't get these State of Play events very often, and Sony can be a little on the quiet side much of the year, so it's always thrilling when they start to break news like this. What games will they show though? That's the question. They have a few games coming in the next few months, including Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and also Returnal. They could do a deep dive on those games. We still don't really know much about Rift Apart and the mysterious female Lombax, so they could open the little net. There's two other games though that I would definitely keep an eye on, and that's Horizon Forbidden West and then Kena Bridge of Spirits. Kena actually got delayed last year, and I believe it's planned for a March release, and I would expect them to talk about this game. It's a very intriguing title, and it's one of the prettiest games that I've seen to date. I don't know how it plays just yet, but the visuals are absolutely stunning. I think there's even a debate that this is actually the best looking game visually for next generation consoles. I need to see more about how it plays though, and State of Play would be a great way of showing that off ahead of its release. The other one though is the one that I think will garner the most attention, and that's Horizon Forbidden West. Zero Dawn was a massive success on the PS4, and based off what PlayStation boss Jim Ryan said yesterday, It very much sounds like Forbidden West will release sometime in 2021. He seemed pretty confident in that, so maybe they're ready to ramp up the marketing for this game. He, however, unfortunately does not seem confident in a God of War Ragnarok release for 2021. I mean, I would love to see this game tomorrow, but I mean, there is a chance that this will not be there. I'd like to see it personally, but I'm not going to count on it being here at this event. Fingers crossed, but yeah. What I'm interested in, though, is the new game announcements. Do they have some kind of big surprise here? Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough, but let me know your predictions in the comments below. On to our final news piece, we have yet another Switch Pro leak. I know, these Switch Pro leaks just will not stop, and this time it's coming from an industry insider over on Resetera by the name of Nate Drake. He has a pretty good reputation, and he had some very interesting things to say. He claims that a Switch Pro does exist and that it runs on NVIDIA DLSS and has 4K functionality. He even goes so far as to say that he is 100% positive about this. Yeah, that's a bold statement, but this is not the first time that we've heard something like this. A data mine recently suggested something very similar with 4K functionality and an upgraded display. Now, from my understanding of the previous rumor, the 4K functionality will take place in the docking station, and then the display would be the big upgrade for handheld mode. That would actually be enough for somebody like me to invest in a new quote-unquote Switch Pro. If it's a big upgrade in display such as an OLED screen, I'm all in. It looks amazing on that thing, and I'd really like to see the Switch Pro do something like that if this thing does in fact exist. Now, it doesn't mean it'll happen or anything, but Nate Drake later went on to say that he is confident that his Switch Pro will be announced this year and that a delay to 2022 would need to be communicated in the next few months as dev kits and third-party partners begin to plan software for the device. So according to Nate Drake, this will happen, and he even notes that it does not need to release side-by-side with Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 as previously speculated. That would be a great way of selling a Switch Pro, and that has been widely speculated on by the community, but the two can release independent of one another as he mentions here. And that is important because it does seem increasingly likely that Breath of the Wild 2 will, in fact, miss 2021. Nintendo still hasn't confirmed a 2021 release date, so I could see that releasing in early 2022. However, if Nate Drake and his sources are correct, the Switch Pro could release before that in 2021. Now, with all of that said, keep in mind to take this news with a grain of salt for several different reasons. Obviously, this is a leak and not confirmed by Nintendo themselves, but also, things change internally. Nintendo ultimately could decide to delay a console like this to release side-by-side with something like Breath of the Wild 2, and that can't just be ruled out. It does seem like that there's one common thread though. A Switch Pro does exist, and it's only a matter of time before we get an official announcement. It seems like it's coming sooner rather than later. Now, onto the poll of the day. I asked you all, should Sony release more PlayStation games on PC? They have released several PC games as of recent, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and yesterday, they announced Days Gone will release on PC this spring. So I asked you, the community, and 76% of you said that yes, they should continue to release more games for PC. Many of you cited this being a win-win situation for Sony and gamers alike, and I feel very similar to this. PlayStation makes high-quality games, but also very expensive games. By expanding the PC, they will then make more money to invest in more PlayStation games, and also it could bring PC gamers over to the PlayStation ecosystem. Horizon Zero Dawn, as an example, is on PC, and that could garner interest in a PlayStation 5 when Forbidden West releases later this year. So yeah, I think this is a great decision by Sony. They're only doing it with older games right now, and I'd like to see them continue that. The older Uncharted games, Bloodborne, God of War, and several others would be great choices to bring over to PC. Now, I don't think Sony will commit too much on newer games per se, but I see no reason, absolutely no reason to keep their older games off PC when they can make more money off of these high-quality games. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.